let's look at the fantasy basketball waiver wire. The trade deadline has come and passed. We've got buyouts and weird rotation changes. Let's see what we should be doing, Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and my GOAT is White Michael Jordan. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter as always at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That is linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. I love you when you double bang. You go and you just play out the audio. You play it through. You don't have to listen to it. You watch the video. You can let that play through as well. You thumb it up. You leave your comments. You hit the notification bell. You subscribe. All-Star Break is coming up. I am still going to have some videos across the All-Star Break. Definitely something coming through the All-Star Break in terms of preparation for fantasy playoffs. Don't get too excited about it because people get a little bit over the top with fantasy playoff preparation, but we will do that. So that will come through the break as well as other videos as well. So we're here to talk about the fantasy basketball waiver wire, and I've said this ad nauseum, right? We have the situation where you save your ads before the trade deadline. You see what happens at the deadline. You might think, oh, there's not much going on here in terms of moves. Then weird stuff happens with players being out of the lineup and big values bump. And then we get the players trickling in after trades. And then that adjusts the rotation. Then you get players trickling back from injury after the All-Star break. And that changes the rotation. And then you get all the teams who sort of sit down over the break and reassess where they're at. Are we pushing for the playoffs? Are we tanking? How do we prioritize development? And then the rotations change again. So over the next 3 weeks, we've had the first phase of it done. We're sort of in the middle of that phase 2, where the players are transitioning in from the trades, and then you're going to have 3, 4, 5 phases over the next couple of weeks where teams get used to who the new players are. Like, for example, Charlotte, their entire bench rotation, they just DNP'd them all last game and played 5 new bench guys. Is that going to be real, or was Steve Clifford just doing it to see what he had in his new players? All these guys that have been playing 15, 18 minutes a night, Nick Smith, the genius Nate Mensah, Bryce McGowans, these guys have all been playing minutes, zeros. All the new players straight in. Like, is that real? Is that going to continue? I don't know. And then they sit down and they reevaluate what they're going to do and who they fake injure and all that sort of stuff. So all this stuff happens and it changes a lot. So again, be really cautious. It is a good sell high and buy low time at this point of the year as well. Sell high in particular, but also just make sure you don't get carried away by looking at Buddy Hield playing 36 minutes a night and go, yeah, look at that, he's going to dominate. When there are 3 rotation players who at minimum play 20 minutes a night coming back, probably all played 25, maybe 26. And that can impact all of that stuff as well. Yeah, Ricky Council won't play. Or if you're adding Ricky Council, which you can't on ESPN, because of course you can't, because he's only been on the roster all season, that's not going to last. Yeah, got that? I hope we do. I hope it makes sense. So being nimble in the short term with also an eye on the long term in terms of not overvaluing, not overreacting is important. So who is a must roster player? So what I've looked at here is over the next 3 weeks or so, which guys I see as available in over 45% of leagues, who I believe are top 100 players. We'll start with the category league section here. And it's very obvious to me that Paul Reed is at the top of this list. The Sixers did not trade for a center, despite the protestations of the Paul Reed haters that they would, and there's no point with Reed. He's trash, Josh. They're definitely going to upgrade. They did not upgrade. So Reed, until Embiid comes back, is your must-roster top 100 player. He is not going to dominate every night. He is not Joel Embiid, but he is going to do the things in fantasy that get hidden often. Defensive stats, strong field goal percentage, out-of-position assists, good rebounds. He's going to be good. He has been good. He's going to be rostered. The next one is the big sneeze, Precious Achiuwa. And this is also one of those ones. Now, I didn't realize that Precious Achiuwa had stands. He does. Didn't realize that. So you get into like some discussions or arguments where people go, look how much Tibbs loves him. He's going to play a ton of minutes. And like, okay, there's at least like 110 minutes of playing time going to return to that front court with Hartenstein, Randall, and Anunoby at some point. But I don't know when that point is. At least two of them, Randall and Anunoby, won't be back until after the All-Star break. Who knows when? Maybe start of March. I don't know. Hartenstein, maybe next game. But there's a huge role here for Achua. The problem is that we do it now, but then you're going to have those three guys return. You've got the addition of Bojan Bogdanovic, and there's just no way the Precious plays 40 minutes a night. That is an absolute stone-cold lock guarantee. Bang! Sound effect. Lock it up. Throw away the key. There's no way he's playing 40 minutes a night. I guarantee you. But for now, yeah, absolutely a must-roster player. The next one is Big Dick Richards. You might not like what he does, but this is the epitome of male peak performance, Nick Richards. He's not going to blow you away with big numbers. He's going to get you close to a double-double, 1.5 to 2 blocks, high field goal percentage. The sort of numbers that people were considering taking Jaren Jackson in the first round and Walker Kessler in round 2 about. Exaggeration, but he's a small, a few category producer. That's a must-roster player. It doesn't have to be you, but it is a must-roster player. The next two are going to be controversial. Former and current Jazz players. Well, next three, actually. Chris Dunn, Kelly Olynyk, and Keontae George. I'm less certain about these ones, but the way that I've projected stuff out, I have given a couple of extra minutes to Dunn, a couple of extra minutes to George, and it puts them into the top 110 sort of situation over the next 3 weeks. Now, there's going to be iffy stuff. Dunn is going to have issues with scoring. We know this. George is going to have issues with field goal percentage. We also know this. But just getting the 2 to 3 extra minutes out of these guys probably puts him into that spot. The other one with Olynyk, well, we know that he produces. There's no question about him producing. It's about what his minutes are. And his first game in Toronto, it's 22 minutes. Like, could he get 26 playing all of the backup 4 and 5 minutes? I think that is 100% possible. I would probably have, like, Olynyk, again, he's not a sexy name at all, but his fantasy profile is great. And if you've consumed any fantasy content in the last week, I am sure you have heard someone talking about, remember when Kelly Olynyk played for Houston? He was top 30 for a season and won leagues? Yeah, you've heard that. That won't happen, but he is worth grabbing. So look, the Dunn and George ones are a little bit more iffy because we still don't know exactly how that rotation works, but they ran some 3-guard lineups quite a bit because they have, like, I tell you, this is not a joke. They have no small forwards on this team at all. They actually had to excise from the crypt, from the tombs, Taylor Horton-Tucker to play 14 minutes. It went as predictably bad as you could expect, but they had to do it. So there are some extra minutes that are popping off there for some of those guards. For points leagues, some of the similar names. We've got basketball, Paul Reed, Precious Achua. I'm putting Scooter Henderson in there. That Blazers team at the moment, I don't know what you take away from it because everyone's out. I think Scoot's a must-roster category league guy as well. He just projects higher in points leagues. And I think they're going to be one of those teams at the break that sits down and goes, all right, do we actually need 34 minutes of Malcolm Brogdon and 26 of Scoot, or should we just be getting 33 of Scoot every night? The absence of Shaden Sharp for the season helps him too. I've got Santi Aldama on the points list. For categories, he probably should be rostered as well. You know I have a lack of confidence in Santi being this great top-end guy because he's incredibly inconsistent. I think they will move around his minutes quite a bit as well. But he is on this list, and then it's Nick Richards and Keontae George as all guys who I think can have pretty strong top 100, top 110 sort of numbers over the next couple of weeks, and I believe that's enough for you to consider those players on your roster. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs is not just a standard sort of job site because small businesses need more than that. You need to find the quality professionals that are right for your role, and that's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. LinkedIn is a vast network of over 1 billion professionals, that is with a B. So it makes it the best place to find the right hire. It gives you access to professionals that you can't find anywhere else. LinkedIn does all that while making the process easy and intuitive. Hiring is easy when you've got that many candidates right in front of you. It's like, what is it called? Shooting fish in a barrel? It's so easy that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. LinkedIn knows that small business owners are wearing many different hats. You're the marketing department, you're the HR department, you are the customer service department. You are legal, you are everything, right? And hiring is one of those things that sometimes gets pushed aside, but getting staff and the right staff is key to a successful business. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That is linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Sometimes I say things on this show and it doesn't apply to everybody, and that's okay, right? But sometimes I feel like I just need to address something because I've seen people say, well, Josh, when he has these must rosters, like, they're ridiculous. They're so far behind the times that these guys have already been rostered weeks ago. Yes, I know. For a lot of leagues, they have. because most of those guys on that list we've been talking about for weeks and weeks and weeks. But often it takes people a long time to figure that out. So if they're already rostered in your league, that's probably not for you, that segment. What the must roster situation is, or that segment of the show to start off, is guys that I look at and I see them available in 45% of leagues, and I say, there's absolutely no way any league should have these guys on the wire. So please, if they're on your wire, just go and correct it. This is not me trying to get ahead of it. This is not me trying to be smart and snappy and like, we got to get this guy right now because you never know what's going to pop off. That's not what that is. Right? That's not what the must roster is. That is just the guys that are sitting there. I go, come on. Can somebody add this player? That is what that section is basically. Think of it that way. I go, come on. What are you guys waiting for? That is what that segment is, and that's devoted to some of the other leagues. Again, not your super sharp, most competitive league in the world, and if you joined it, you'd definitely come last. I guarantee you, we know everything about fantasy. It's not that league. That's for just as a general rule. We talk about getting ahead of guys all the time, about making preemptive ads, about looking at the guys, and we're going to do that a lot here as well, and you'll see a lot of those names brought up. But again, it's a definition of a term of what do you mean? When I say must roster, does that mean everybody in every league must go and grab this guy? Like, yes, that is what that means. But in a lot of them, that's already happened because, congratulations, you're in an anti-taco league. Yeah? Just, again, sometimes, even though I've done these shows, thousands of shows, the definitions that I use might not align with what you think the definitions are, therefore leading to confusion when we talk about these segments. So let's define it again. We're talking, sorry, I spoke over Jack, droppable players. What does this mean? Do you have to drop them? No, you don't. Can you feel okay dropping them in a standard league? I think in a lot of these cases, you probably can. These are all guys that are rostered in over 60% of leagues who might be sitting on those rosters where if you got them and you want to move on to take that preemptive flyer because your league is super competitive, I know I'm being snarky. But if you want to take that flyer, then if you drop this guy, you might be okay. But you also don't have to do it. You definitely don't have to drop these players. You can. And I think you'll feel okay the majority of the time. Well, I don't know if you feel okay. That's up to you. Droppable guys in category leagues. I've got Andrew Wiggins on this list because it's downturning for him at the moment. We had that run where he pushed back to 33, 34 minutes, but over the last 3 or 4 games, he's down 28, 29. We're seeing Brandon Pajemski cut into his playing time. And while Wiggins has not been as terrible as he was to begin the season, where he was like the 350th best player for category leagues, he's not that bad anymore. He's at a spot where, again, if he's on your roster and you look at it and you go, is he my worst player? And if your answer is yes, then he is droppable. Maybe that's the definition. If we're in a standard format, if this guy is on your roster, is he probably your worst guy? And if so, then move on. Or you can move on, or you can sacrifice to take your flyer on a random guy that you think is going to pop off. Same with Tim Hardaway. Yes, we love having Tim Hardaway when Luka or Kyrie are out. But when they're healthy, he's a little bit more hard to rely upon because that inconsistency doesn't get overridden by the high highs that come with those big games with those players out. So I don't think that you need to roster him. I almost put Jordan Clarkson on this list for a similar reason that there's too much inconsistency with his game. He's very close to that. I've got Mark Williams here. That is a very, very clear Jack, I think. Get that garbage out of here. After the doubtful debacle sort of settled, after 12 games, we just said drop him because we're not getting the right information. They keep pushing him out further and further. So this was a drop probably early January. But I know he's still rostered in like 60 or 70% of leagues. And of course, if you have open IL slots and you don't need them, who cares? Hold him. But if he is plugging up an IL slot and you then are keeping another injured player on your bench, limiting your stream ability, then that's worthless. Then you move him out of that IL slot and you drop him. I've got Keldon Johnson on here. Again, he is not for everybody. Just think he is non-Canadian, so better, RJ Barrett. He scores with very limited rebounds, assists, threes, steals, blocks, bad percentages as a general rule. He'll have better games, he'll have bad ones, but the fact that they play him off the bench and they don't give him 30 plus means you don't need to roster him in category leagues. I've got Fan of Pants Kevin Huerter there. Too much inconsistency for me. Stream him in when the schedule's good, drop him when it's not. And the last one, and ready? Kyle, turn the TikTok camera on. For all of you with an apology fetish, that love to sit there and jerk off to people apologizing, get ready, this is for you. I'm very, very sorry for misprojecting Jordan Poole in the preseason. I'm very sorry for getting it completely wrong. I held out hope that stuff would improve, that maybe there would be a trade at the trade deadline. There was not. So, with the heartiest of hearty Jack Armstrongs, Jordan Poole.
Get that garbage out of here.
Get out of here. Of course, he's going to average 30 and 6 for the next 4 weeks, but we're done. We are done. Points leagues, a lot of the similar names here. Look, we can just stop with Mark Williams. I don't believe Grayson Allen's a points league hold, but I've also been telling you that for about 4 weeks. Nothing changes here. Royce O'Neal doesn't impact this. Grayson Allen is just not a must-roster guy in points leagues. I've got Al Horford there. Al Horford has these interesting spikes in category leagues when the Celtics undergo their load management process every single week, and Horford gets those spike games, and that can be okay. Obviously, he sits out time as well, but in a points league, the value is not high enough to deal with that. I've got Andy Wiggins on that list, I've got Kevin Huerter on that list, and I've got Tim Hardaway on that list. So basically, a lot of the same sort of names there. From a points league perspective, you probably give Poole a little bit of extra grace in a points league, but still pretty annoying. Still pretty annoying. What about the most added players? Who has been trending up the boards? Now, with only 2 games on Sunday for Super Bowl Sunday, some of the most added guys are a little bit skewed to those teams that play on Sunday. But the number 1 player on this list is Greg Jackson. GG is up 45%. GG's minutes are pretty solid. His efficiency is going to be an issue. His Ryan Anderson-esque assists, steals, and blocks counts are going to be a concern. He is someone that you'll add, and then he'll have a 10-point game on 15 shots in 26 minutes. You go, what am I doing? But I don't mind adding him. That's one of those ones where, look, we talked about him literally weeks ago. As soon as Bane went down, we said, all right, let's watch. And it's trending up, and it's trending up. Now, of course, he's still not starting. That might come later on. He's totally okay to roster, but there are a lot of downsides. The next 2 most added players are Trey Lyles and Lou Dort. A lot of that is to stream in on Sunday. With Sasha Vezenkov out for quite a while for the Kings, that does help Lyles a little bit, but that's just deeper league stuff. And absolutely, God bless you if you are. And I'm not a religious prayer person, but Jesus, you need everything that you can get if you're rostering Lou Dort. You know how it goes, and I cannot wait to see a 2.1 rebound masterclass from the big fella. The most added player that wasn't Trey Lyles over on Yahoo was Josh Richardson. Unfortunately, because that game's just sort of started, he popped his shoulder out and he's done for the night. So, yeah, that's not good. And they've also got General Soreness, Jimmy Butler, out due to a death in his family. So, again, our thoughts go out to Jimmy. And I have fun with Jimmy quite a bit on this show. Not that he knows that I'm having fun, but that's a shocking situation. And we hope that everything's okay and he's able to cope with that and deal with the grief over the course of the next couple of weeks and get back and be healthy and ready to go. Kevin Love, one of the most added players, that's for streaming today. And the next one there is Vasilije Micic, who was great. He was fantastic in that first game. Some real highlight plays. That Charlotte team had a bunch of excitement with him running that backup point guard role. There are a couple of things about that. He shot out of control. He was 67% shooting. Even his last couple of weeks, the shooting numbers are absolutely through the roof, which he's not going to be able to maintain. I don't mind an add of Micic. I think it's totally okay. I think that I don't know. I don't know what's happening with the LaMelo Ball because this team won't tell us. I am starting to fear that he won't play. There's no real good reason for it, but I'm starting to fear that. The reason, Josh, is tanking. I know that. But if they were tanking, Miles Bridges wouldn't be out there. But Micic, really good scoring, really good assists last game. The assists and the passing, absolutely locked in. Love that. I think that the system in Charlotte suits him more than it does in Oklahoma City, so he's okay to add. I wouldn't say that he's the highest priority add, but people have jumped on it, and that's okay. That's what we talk about, getting out ahead of it. If you believe that Micic is going to play 27 a night and score 18 with 9 assists, which he did, go for it. Maybe you don't even expect that. What does he probably need? 13 and 6? That's doable. That's doable, but there might be some 18-minute games coming up where they do try and work Nick Smith back in. And remember what Steve Clifford did with the centers last season where they ran 3 different guys and they would sit one out every 2-3 games? I'd watch the man, Micic, Nick Smith, triumvirate, and just watch the way they run it. Because again, Micic is 29. He's not a part of their long-term future at all. So just be aware of that, I guess. Today's episode is brought to you by Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little bit further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Our friends at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventure to the next level. The 2024 Nissan Rogue. It is perfect for city drives and for great escapes. Class exclusive Google built-in is your always updating assistant to call on for almost anything. Gone are the days of connecting your phone. Google Assistant, Google Maps, and Google Play Store are built right into the 12.3-inch HD touchscreen infotainment system. The 2024 Rogue is the perfect mid-size crossover for your next adventure. Nissan's incredible lineup also includes the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder. It has room for up to 8, an expansive cargo capacity, and advanced available 4x4 capabilities. It's got 284 horsepower, up to 6,000 pounds of towing, and when adventure calls, the Pathfinder is there to answer. So take the Nissan Rogue, the Nissan Pathfinder, and the Nissan Armada and go and find your next big adventure. Shop nissanusa.com. All right, so we did the most added players. Let's do the most dropped players.
Get that garbage out.
Who has been jacked off rosters the most? Number one on that list is Spencer Dinwiddie, gone from Brooklyn. There are people who are like, well, now he's in LA. Does that mean the end of Austin Reeves? I'm not sure how often you watch Spencer Dinwiddie this season. He's bad. Like, he was terrible this season. He's way worse than D'Angelo Russell. And you know my thoughts on D'Angelo Russell. He's way worse than Austin Reeves. So he's probably, what it probably does is obviously end any Cam Reddish or Gabe Vincent sort of value. What it does mean is that if Russell goes into a slump, that they do have a replacement, and it is a huge increase to the Lakers' depth. But I don't care. 25 minutes of Spencer Dinwiddie on a team with Russell, Reeves, LeBron, and AD is absolutely nowhere near what I care about for fantasy. None whatsoever. Not interested. Don't want him. Drop him in 12s. Cam Whitmore down 14%. Yes, no problem with that. He's out injured. He's only 20 minutes a night. Just shouldn't be on a 12-team roster. And then Ayo Dosunmu down 13%. I think Ayo is okay to roster. Last game we saw that Andre Drummond got into some foul trouble but barely played, and Dosunmu got his 40 minutes back. But in this period of the season where we're taking flyers on Micic's, or we're taking flyers on Tre Mann's, or Chris Dunn's, or Cali Linux, or if you want to get spicy, it's Ochai Agbaji. That's a bad one. But if you want to do that, like dropping someone like a Dosunmu whose upside is relatively limited is okay. Josh Green, one of the most dropped on Yahoo. Yeah, probably should never have been added. He's a 14 to 16 team league guy. Jabari Walker had a really good game 2 games ago. People, this is what I'm getting noticed. They love a chase. They love chasing stuff. So Jabari Walker went off in that Blazers game where there was no Scoot, no Brogdon, no Simons, no Ayton, and no Reith. And they went, all right, let's go. We're doing this. And then Ayton and Reith came back and Walker didn't do anything. So they dropped him. And the same is, the campaign went crazy. So they went and added campaign, and then Tyrese Maxey played and he did nothing. So he's one of the most dropped players as well. Look, rightfully, they should be dropped. But it's again one of those things in your memory. You don't get the previous game. So if it was a one-game fill-in situation because of a lot of guys were out, then maybe don't get too excited about it. Maybe. Let's talk hot players. Who are the guys over the last week who've been in the top 100? We've already mentioned a lot of the names, so I don't want to double up on a lot of these names, but here's another selection, a smattering of guys that we can talk about. Alec Burks has been in the top 100. Some of those games in Detroit, some in New York. Don't care. Not rostering him in 12-team leagues. Yes, he had 22 points in 22 minutes. If you believe Alec Burks is a point per minute player, good luck to you. He isn't. And this is another one of those situations where Tim and Bojan and Precious, who... Well, Bojan and Precious have 12-team value now, but him, Bojan, Precious, Josh Hart are going to be droppable. When you get to your fantasy playoffs, they're just not going to be there because those other guys are going to be returning. So yeah, don't care too much there. Corey Kispert had put together a couple of really strong games and then stunk in the last one. He's a guy that historically has a terrible fantasy game. Now, he does have a really high 2-point percentage. He bangs a lot of threes. He doesn't do much else, but his usage went way up for whatever reason. And that rotation's a little bit all over the place in Washington. So just watch that. And I'm not mentioning him anywhere else. I'll mention Marvin Bagley here. Don't drop Marvin Bagley after that game yesterday. Don't drop Daniel Gafford after his game yesterday when he only played 17 minutes. Don't drop Derek Lively yet. I believe Lively will become a drop. I believe Gafford might become a drop. Bagley, who, again, I think is terrible as a player, but I think he's better than Rashawn Holmes. So I would like to hold to see what happens. We don't need to make that quick decision on those guys. I've got Scottie Pippen Jr. there because he is a top 100 player. The problem here is because Pippen signed a 2-way deal in the middle of the season, he doesn't get the full 50 games. It gets prorated. For my calculations, I haven't seen an official figure on this. I think he's got 16 games left. So basically what they do is if you see that he gets assigned to the G League, he's not going to be rostered. But what the pattern has been is if he's not in the G League, he starts, he plays 25 minutes, and he's a 12-team league player. It makes it hard, but in a Roto Games Cap situation where you don't have to play him every game, in a Locked On Fantasy Basketball situation where you don't have to play them every game because of a games cap, well, Pippen's got a lot of value in that situation. If it's one where you've just got to maximize games every week, well, we don't know what he's going to do. We don't know when he's going to play. I've got TJ McConnell there as well. Again, I keep saying I've got him there. I'm not choosing to put him there. That's just what the rankings have spat out. He's putting up some really good numbers in limited minutes. Him getting 17 off the bench is better than getting 12 off the bench with the absence of Buddy Hield, and he's at least on that list of streamers for us. Jalen Smith also really high usage at the moment, playing some backup minutes there, but it's still Isaiah Jackson. There's still Obi Toppin in that mix. I think Smith's okay, but probably more 14-team leagues. And then Amen Thompson, yes, we are flying with Amen Thompson at the moment while Fred VanVleet is out. You'll notice that his numbers have been solid without being great, and I think there is zero chance that Amen Thompson is going to be a 12-team league guy rest of the season, which brings me on to another name that I'm not mentioning. I'm not going to have it listed on this show, and that is Tari Eason, who could be back after the All-Star break. That's cool. I don't really care. I love Tari Eason from a fantasy perspective, but second flare-up of a leg injury, probably going to be on limited minutes. Plus, when he was getting those 24 minutes a night earlier in the season, Cam Whitmore wasn't playing. Well, Cam Whitmore is playing now. Yes, they could easily take Jayshawn Tate out of the rotation, but I don't think that it's a very easy, well, here's 28 minutes for Tari Eason coming. And to wait until he comes back, deals with his limits, and see how it all plays out with Whitmore, I don't think the output is going to be worth that, personally. I don't think you're going to get enough out of it. Let's look at some injury replacement players who are getting some benefits from guys being out. And I will start by talking about Tre Mann in Charlotte. So who's he replacing? Well, it's LaMelo Ball, isn't it? Tre Mann was a guy that I flagged weeks ago. And I said to you guys, just watch. He's requested a trade. If he goes to a bad team, he might get a really big opportunity. He's on a bad team. He might get a big opportunity. He had 9 points and 9 assists in his first game he started. Now, yes, it's very obvious to look at the numbers and say, well, Vasilije Micic outplayed him. That is true. But like I said earlier, Micic is 28, 29. He might even be, I think he's 29. Mann is a 22-year-old first-round pick, year 3 in the league. And don't get it wrong. I don't think Tre Mann is very good. I think he's actually has been quite bad. But for 25 games here, there's an opportunity for them to see what he can do. I would be very interested in taking that preemptive add-on man and just seeing where we go. Again, the LaMelo Ball thing is going to decide all of this. If Ball comes back, though, could they just start Mann instead of Cody Martin? Yes, and they probably should. So I'm really interested to see where he goes here. Jaime Jaquez is on this list with Jimmy Butler out. We just got to go back to Jaquez very easily. Jaquez did a lot of his damage early on when Hero and Butler were out, and he put up great numbers. They came back, he put up bad numbers. We've got to see where the shooting sits, but the opportunity is definitely arisen. Simone Fontecchio, I've listed as an injury replacement guy here. Why? Well, because Isaiah Stewart and Quentin Grimes are out. I have no idea how much Quentin Grimes is going to play, but I do know, there's one thing I know, is that this team, for some reason, froths Isaiah Stewart. So, it's not possible for both Asar Thompson, I don't know why I called him that like that, Asar Thompson and Simone Fontecchio to be must-roster 12-team league guys. Because Thompson's getting 27 a night, Fontecchio had 31 or 32 in that first game. Fontecchio's a guy that lacks assist, steals, and blocks, not usually a high-volume guy, even though he wasn't that one. And yeah, I think they're going to start him over Asar Thompson, start him at the 3 with Stewart at the 4, but I'm not sure that makes him 100% a must-roster guy. But while Stewart is out, while Grimes is out, sure, go for it. Like, again, do you want to take an upside flyer on someone? Do it. Don't overvalue him. Don't drop someone really good for it, because there are still those two players. And again, I've had arguments/discussions with people who are like, Asar Thompson, the very clearest must-roster player. They've cleared everything out for him. Okay, that's cool. The next person, man, everything is opened up for Fontecchio. He's a clear must-add player. They love him. He's a big part of what they do. He's just a clear replacement for Bojan. All these minutes are going to be up. All right. I've had another discussion with someone else and other people who have like, man, you know what they're going to do? Quentin Grimes can play the 3. They're going to play Grimes, Ivy, and Cade together. They got Grimes. They didn't want a first-round pick. They chose Grimes instead. They're going to value him. He's going to play a ton of minutes. He's a must-add player. Those 3 things cannot exist together. You lost Bojan's 32 minutes. You lost Alec Burks' 22 minutes or whatever. Those 3 players can't all play 31 minutes a night and be 12-team league players. somebody is going to lose out, or a potential more likely scenario is they all lose out as they all eat into each other's asses and play 25 minutes or 30 and 28 and then 26, and it goes back and forward. Right? So I think that is going to be the risk there, that those three guys who, different sections of fantasy analysts, fantasy players, fantasy Reddit contributors, Twitterers, whatever, have said that they think this guy is the winner, they all can't be. And going by like the overall sort of structure of Simone Fontecchio's fantasy game, I'm not convinced he's going to be that guy. In fact, is he just a slightly shorter Santi Aldama, where you want it to happen, you think it's going to happen, but I don't know if it does. I've got Rui Hachimura on this list. Again, I've got to hold my nose talking about a lot of these players because I just think he's really bad as well. But while there are injuries in LA, while we have the situation where Vanderbilt's out maybe for the year, they're starting Rui, and sometimes when you bludgeon in 36 minutes of play, you'll get enough value for points leagues. In category leagues, he becomes a streamer for points, but that's about it. This one here is a deeper league one. It is Jalen Wilson in Brooklyn, and I believe that he has got a 20-minute-a-night role while Cam Johnson is out. We flagged Jalen Wilson weeks and weeks ago as a really interesting player to watch if they shipped out some guys, and they shipped out someone. That was Royce O'Neal. So could Jalen just get his 20 minutes a night every night? That's possible. There is still Finney Smith, who just returned. There is Cam Johnson to return as well. There's Lonnie Walker. There's Dennis Schroeder, again, who some people think is going to be this huge 30-minute-a-night player, and I'll push back and say, well, Dinwiddie was down to 25 minutes a night, so I don't really think that Schroeder coming off the bench is going to be that guy, but I could be very wrong on that as well. I'd love to sell high on Schroeder after a back-to-back last game. A double-double last game. Deeper leagues, Jalen Wilson. I think they just really like him. It would have been much better had they traded Finney Smith, but Wilson's just one to watch. And the other one is Grant Williams, who was great in his first game for Charlotte. Not really believing that Grant Williams is his big permanent beast. Remember, both him and Micic came off the bench, put up big numbers against whatever that was in Memphis. Key against Memphis. So Grant was great. I'm just waiting for the 6.1 rebound game in 27 minutes, which historically he has done. Now he's only been on good teams, Boston and Dallas, so maybe on a bad team he can spread his wings. But what was interesting last game is that they really got that bench involved, and Brandon Miller took 9 shots. Brandon Miller had been taking 1 million shots. So was that just a test-out game? I don't know. But yeah, he's in there as an injury replacement with Mark Williams sidelined to get him into that role there. And obviously the absence of PJ Washington. Lastly, 6 more names that we do need to mention here, plus the other 20 that I've just sprinkled in throughout this show that haven't been on lists. At the top here is Marcus Sasser. Again, one of those guys that the perfect illustration of how we can take advantage of the trade deadline. Is that first game after the deadline, Sasser played 40 minutes, and people go, look, he's a rookie. He's shooting 50, 40, 90. He's actually really good. He's amazing. He's going to get so many minutes. And I was like, okay, well, wait till Fontecchio, wait for Grimes, wait for Stewart, and let's see. And of course, he played 14 minutes last game. The reality is not he's a 14-minute player. He's not a 39-minute player. He got foul trouble in that game, but he's one of those guys that, again, when everything was open up and no one else was around, we saw Sasser play a lot. But he won't do that every game because he is a point guard / shooting guard, and the Pistons' 2 best players are point guards and shooting guards. And that's just hard to do. Plus, the guy they got in Grimes. I've got Caleb Martin here just again with the Jimmy Butler absence. A couple of extra minutes going there probably pushes him into short-term 12-team league value. Ashton Hagans, for those of you who are completely desperate and sick, the Blazers do have a bit of an interesting schedule to begin this week. They're one of 3 teams that plays 2 quality games this week. Them, the Bucks, the Wolves. And I mentioned Ashton Hagans. He's caught up on a 10-day. Because if Scoot is out, if Brogdon is out, if Simons is out, Hagans played 27 minutes last game. And you might say, Ashton Hagans, he's not available in my ESPN league. And I go, of course he's not. I actually don't know whether he's available in ESPN because you'll be shocked to know I don't play on ESPN leagues because it is a bad platform. Shout out to them and Sleeper, battling to be the worst fantasy platform you can have. So I don't know whether Hagans is available. But if those guys are out, yeah, he's going to be worth a short-term stream. Taylor Hendricks. I do think that when we hit middle of March, Hendricks will be a 12-team league player. First game after the deadline, we said, let's watch for Hendricks. 18 minutes. Bang. Straight in. Blocks, threes, scoring, rebounds, percentages. He can provide all of that. I think peak Taylor Hendricks is taller Paul Millsap. which is an unbelievable fantasy player. We don't need to be adding him in most spots now, but I think at some point there will be a reimagination of the lineup. There will be a, John, how is your finger feeling? I think you might be done, yeah? And we get a Hendricks, Walker Kessler starting front court. That provides really good value. I've got Bilal Coulibaly on here. I don't think that it's going to be happening for him. He's just too low usage. They didn't clear out any usage, guys. Wait to see if fake injuries strike down Kyle Kuzma when he gets some knee soreness for the final 3 weeks. Then we look at that. And the other one is Benedict Mathurin, who you would assume has a huge opportunity with no Buddy Hield, but that does not stop Benedict Mathurin from being bad. And I'm getting a little worried that he just might be a just not good player. He can score at times. He flashes, but it's once every 3 weeks. I don't think that you need Mathurin on a 12-team league. Again, the obvious thing would be, well, Hield was out. Let's go grab him everywhere. And I'm not sure that's going to work out. Nembhard is the guy that's getting extra minutes there as well. Don't think he is going to be a must-roster player either. But they'll have moments where they look like it, and then it will go back and forward. And that was a waiver wire show. Tell me, is there someone that I didn't mention that you would have? Is there someone that you think that I was way off on this show? Drop it in the comments. Let's have a roast/flame session. Drop it in the comments down below. And I hope you guys saved the Jordan Poole section. Don't forget, give it a thumbs up. Leave your comments. Bells, whistles. There's no whistle, but make one up. And whatever. You know what you need to do. Guys, we're done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. Enjoy the Super Bowl. See ya.